Welcome my friends, welcome back to Project TAS. If you're new to my channel, thank you for stopping by. If you've watched any of my previous videos, thank you for returning to my channel. Today we're doing another Blake 7 episode review from Season 1. As always, I will point out that this review will inevitably touch upon certain plot elements of this episode and may even reveal developments for the series of Blake 7 as a whole. So if you haven't seen this episode or anything else in terms of Blake 7, a huge spoiler alert is in order in case you wish to do a bit of Blake 7 catch up prior to watching this review. You have been warned. Right, let's get to it, shall we? If you were looking for a more prime or extreme example of two seemingly unrelated and rather opposing stories and story types coexisting almost next to each other in a chronological order, you need look no further than Bounty. Story 1 is about the attempted rescue, or capture, depending on how you look at it, or how the characters look at it, of ex-President Sarkov. He is the unknowing victim of a Federation ploy known as the Lindor Strategy. Essentially, he was deposed of as president as a result of a rigged election, but is treated as an honoured guest or resident of the Federation, until such time as he can be sent back to lead his planet, but this time as a broken Federation puppet. He is being held as this extended guest, or prisoner, again depending on how you look at it, on some sort of Federation base, along with his daughter Tice, who is also unaware of the ploy to remove him from power, but doesn't trust the circumstances of her father's setting nearly as much as he does. Essentially, we have a very talky drama, as Blake, someone who is trying to boost rebellion everywhere and every way he can, tries to convince this previous leader of his people to return to his planet, take control again, and return its stability and independence. Sarkov, the person Blake is trying to convince to do this, is a beaten man, someone who has come to accept his perceived failures and himself as a failure, and has created his own little world of 20th century memorabilia, something that does not judge him and something he cannot bear to leave. A battle of wills and personalities ensues. Who will win? Who do you think?
All of it. Piece by piece. Now! Please. All right. All right. All right, I'll come.
Story 2 is much more a tale of action and combat, betrayal and duplicity, capture and redemption. Essentially, a group of space Bedouins manage to lure the Liberator into a trap, in spite of everyone pretty much realising it's a trap, way before they fall into the trap, and by the time that Blake and Callie return to the Liberator with Sarkov and Tice in tow, the Liberator is already trapped under the control of the malevolent and oddly amusing Tarvin, and barely a few minutes later they themselves are captured. Or trapped. If that weren't enough, dear viewer, Jenna has betrayed her crew for her former business associate, or former smuggler, in order to assist Tarvin deliver the crew and the Liberator to the Federation, to say nothing of saving her own hide. Is Jenna really a traitor? Have the crew finally fallen foul of the Federation? Will Blake escape and regain control of the Liberator? What do you think? I suppose there is some vague crossover between the two plotlines here, given it is Sarkov who kills Tarvin, the lackey of the Federation, the man who thinks he is the winner, the man who sold his own grandmother.
She was going to sell me. I got in first.
Just as Sarkov thinks of himself as a loser and was fooled into selling out. And, I don't know, maybe he loved his grandmother. This is Sarkov's redemption. This is Sarkov's rebirth. But this is not Sarkov's story. Other than this bit and the cross-story tete-a-tete between Tyson, Sarkov and Tarvin, Sarkov has to take a back seat while we then deal with the takeover of the Liberator. I wouldn't necessarily think this was a terrible thing if it wasn't for the fact that we are well over the 30-minute point of this 50-minute episode. 31 minutes, actually, according to my DVD. And just as we are invested in the story of Sarkov rejoining his people to take back the reins of power and lead them out of the darkness, we instead have to watch Blake and the gang recapture the Liberator from the anti-Lawrence of Arabia, and we never get to see Sarkov take back his planet. I mean, maybe there was nothing more to it, but it seems odd to stop this story and start on something that is so radically different. I mean, the story is called Bounty, a reference to the Amagon storyline. Is Sarkov only the secondary plot? I'm rather confused. Not that the pirate takeover is a bad storyline, it's actually fairly entertaining. With the seeming betrayal of the Liberator crew by Jenna, who then assists in the capture of Blake, followed by her kicking the Amagon's asses, it's pretty darn cool. And as I have mentioned previously, Tarvin and the Amagons are good baddies, or at least they are better than the time capsule tribesmen from Time Squad or the dreary brother and sister team in The Web. Which is precisely why we should either have started the Amagon story a lot earlier than we did, so it actually feels part of one episode, or it should have been made into 2 episodes, i.e. one about Sarkov and one about the Amagons. If you did the former option, start the Amagon storyline earlier, I'm sure we could have rescued Sarkov in a quarter of the time it actually took. We could still have him remonstrating about his life and circumstances and had a daring rescue, maybe just cut the fat from the dialogue, and have Blake and Callie entering the building a bit quicker. Like teleporting directly in. Could have had a fast-paced beginning, picking up Sarkov and his daughter, been on the Liberator after about 10 minutes of the episode, and the rest of it could have been Jenna pretending to betray her crew, then covertly taking out the Amagons all Bruce Willis-like. You go, girl. While Sarkov can have a proper battle of wits against Tarvin. Flesh it out and I think you'd have ended up with a very rich episode. What we get isn't actually bad, I actually really enjoy it, but it isn't mixed enough. The ingredients are present, but they're too separated. It's a pity. It's entertaining, the script, the dialogue and character exchanges are up there among the best of Season 1. We get a proper practical use of Callie's telepathic skills.
Guards. Don't speak or make a sound.
There's lots of interesting characters, even the base commander who says alert in a weird way has lots of presence.
This is a red alert. I repeat, this is a red alert.
As does the Amagon guard who pisses Jenna off.
Move.
You'll regret this.
T.P. McKenna as Sarkov, Corintha West as Tice, and Mark Zuber as Tarvin are very good in their assigned roles. I didn't mind the Amagons' costumes, albeit I'm not surprised to hear some reviewers saying they feel out of place in Blake 7. No, it's okay. If we didn't stop one story and start something completely different, well, I think it could have been better. But we have what we have. And while the writing is up there, although I think Chris Boucher really should share screen credit here with Terry Nation, I feel I have to complain about the production. Not so much in terms of the sets. I like Sarkov's chamber with his collection of 20th century whatevers, and the rather depressing room that the Liberator crew are held in that I don't think we see again, are all well designed and put together. No, my complaint is that we get someone who is fascinated by the 20th century and collects 20th century rubbish. How many characters across science fiction always seem to be interested in 20th century Earth stuff? I mean, I can guess why, we can all guess why. Nostalgia and an easier budget and production for the series. But it just seems to be everywhere in science fiction. We have another castle instead of a proper Federation base. A dome like the one we got in The Way Back would have been fine. But no, we get Waterloo Tower in Kex Park, Kent. And along with that, we get an old car. Sorry, automobile. An automobile that crashes, but we only hear it crash. I feel stuff like this is just too much in the way of cutting corners. His collection in his room. That's acceptable, in spite of what he's collecting. But the whole building? And the car? And the hand cranking of the car? And the surrounding forest? Yeah, I know. I don't judge Blake 7 by its visual effects or production, given the limited budget it had. But in this case, the 20th century motif seems very much ingrained in the story. They refer to it constantly, and it does irritate a little bit. Since this was the 11th script on the trot that Mr. Nation was delivering, I can't say I'm hugely surprised that he was having to meld different ideas and stories in order to make up one 50-minute episode. Like I say, Chris Boucher had to contribute quite a lot to this one, and it's a fine effort, far better than the 2 stories in one episode we got in Breakdown. But it really shows here, you can still see the join, and the 2 stories we get in Bounty could have been so much more if given the time and consideration that clearly wasn't available. Chuck in the production shortcuts and the 20th century nonsense, and I feel I can only give Bounty a solitary star. A bit harsh, maybe. I enjoyed it more on repeat viewings once I knew in advance about the 20th century obsession, but it veers too much to that 30-minute mark. A story left unfinished and another story we don't get a proper beginning of. Still, not a terrible effort by the makers and perfectly entertaining, but 2 stories given no money and then shoved into a single episode, it shows. That concludes my review on Bounty. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like this video, please share this video, please subscribe to my channel, and please check out my other Blake 7 episode reviews. And I shall be on eBay trying to get a good price for my grandmother. Jesus, that sounded wrong. See you later.